I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and up next on Monstervision is Future Hunters. The perfect accompaniment to Clint Eastwood is Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2. You guys got to stick around for this one. It's got everything an action flick ever dreamed of. It's a classic of the Filipino cinema made by the legendary Sergio Santiago, director of some 500 Filipino movies. And the total combined budget of those films has still not topped the $100 mark, one of the wonders of modern civilization.
See Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
Hey, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and tonight we've got one of the finest futuristic post-Holocaust kung fu road movies with sledgehammer-carrying midgets ever filmed in the Philippines. I'm not kidding. But before we get to that, a lot of you may have noticed that young children frequently write into Monstervision, even though this show comes on way past their bedtimes, and sometimes they're seeking advice from Uncle Joe Bob. Hence, a few tips from my own childhood. First of all, guys, your sister is always the enemy. Never forget this. She was placed in your family by God in order to be terrorized by you. Now, let me give you an example. I used to say the following words to my own sister. In exactly 1 minute, I'm going to copy everything you say. She would start screaming at me, "No, you're not." I would just placidly look up at the second hand on the clock, inexorably sweeping closer and closer to the dreaded 12. Now, you're thinking, so what? Unoriginal. Everybody's done the old "I'm gonna copy you" torture. But here's the beauty of mine. It's that waiting a minute to copy her that makes it so brutally perfect. She'll talk that whole minute. I'm not gonna say anything. If you copy me, I'll copy you. Just chuckle. Just chuckle. Even if she goes to the ultimate threat, "I'll tell Mama." You might want to respond to that one, actually. You'll tell Mama what? That I was exercising my constitutional rights of free speech to copy you? Okay, I'll give you more tips in the future, but right now, it's time for Robert Patrick, star of Terminator 2, and his foxy girlfriend to run through the Filipino jungle fighting Nazis, Amazon warrior tribes, kung fu masters, and flesh-eating crocodiles while searching for the sacred crystal spear of destiny in Future Hunters. I'll do those drive-in totals at the first break. Roll the film. Most of my terror, see, was carried out while I was the official family babysitter. So my sister would write notes to my mom. First, I would say, "Well, your bedtime is before she gets home, so I'll just find the note and tear it up." So she'd go to sleep clutching it in her fist, you know, or maybe hide it under her pillow. But here's the best part. When she finally got the note to my mother, usually by the next day, it would say something like, "Joe Bob copied me." And you know what moms do when they see a note like that? They say, "Isn't that cute? We should save that note for our scrapbook." Well, nothing like the old crystal spear of Longinus to break up a sexual assault by a biker gang that preys on female anthropologists, is there? See, they trick you. You think it's going to be a post-Holocaust Mad Max sort of deal. Then they switch to a Raiders of the Lost Ark Spear of Longinus subplot. Then they've got sweaty, evil biker gangs screwing up the time travel plot in there. The time traveler guy, that's the great B-movie actor Richard Norton. Karate Cops, Ironheart, Rage and Honor, both 1 and 2, of course. Okay, let's do those drive-in totals I promised. We have 70 dead bodies, 3 motor vehicle chases with 5 crash and burns, hand biting, stabbing, exploding helicopter, exploding airplane, exploding tent, exploding Nazi, spear to the back, multiple spears to the chest, candelabra to the head, 1 sword fight, multiple kung fu, suitcase fu, ex-marine fu, midget fu, babes in fur bikinis wrestling over an alligator pit fu, 3.5 stars. Let us continue now. That Spear of Longinus thing, that is in that book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. You know, a lot of guys are searching for it, and those BBC guys, they think they know where it is. The Masons have it or something. Longinus was the guy who pierced the side of Jesus. And that wooden spear he used to do that is called the Spear of Longinus, or the Spear of Destiny. It's the second most holy object sought by holy object seekers, after the Holy Grail itself. Did you follow that? Now, the crystal thing, I don't know. Sergio Santiago, the director, he made that up, I think. I don't think the Roman soldiers had crystal spears. You know, I got your Spear of Destiny right here, man.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
Whew, Good thing Michelle is wearing that bra and panties when she delivers those lines. That gal is a magnet for attempted sexual assault, though, isn't she? We're only a half hour into this thing. She's already been attacked twice. Okay, meeting Robert Patrick and Linda Carroll. That's the actress's name. Is that a producer's girlfriend name or what? Linda, starring Linda Carroll as the girl who couldn't say no. Meeting Robert and Linda at the Hong Kong airport is Bruce Lee. The great Bruce Lee, star of many a Hong Kong kung fu picture. Remember when Bruce Lee died, the Hong Kong filmmakers came up with all these other martial artists named Bruce. There was Bruce Lowe and Bruce Lee and Bruce Law. Well, Bruce Lee was one of the best of the fake Bruces. And, hey, you know what just occurred to me about the Raiders of the Lost Ark ripoff aspect of this picture? They didn't want to hire two actors in the Philippines, so Linda Carroll is both the archaeologist and the cafe owner. She plays the Harrison Ford part and the Karen Allen part. And Robert Patrick is just the wimp along for the ride, which we're going to prove in this next section. Bruce Lee and Wang Chang Lee engage in one of the funniest, most imaginatively choreographed kung fu matches ever filmed. I could watch this over and over. It's really the highlight of this movie. And Robert just kind of stands around going, need any help? So, go, watch this. Robert Patrick, he's done a lot of B-movie stuff, though. Psycho Biker in Warlords from Hell, Psycho Cowboy in Equalizer 2000, Psycho Terrorist in Die Hard 2. Why does he always need Psycho in front of his name? Wasn't he also, he was in that Terry Hatcher movie that set all the records for internet downloads. Remember that? What was that thing called? Robert Patrick, right? The man is everywhere.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
Okay, I call that the land shark scene. Telegram. And Michelle has her sexy bathrobe on, so should she answer? Telegram. And she won't open the door, but they give her the line she just can't argue with. You've got to sign for it. So she opens the door and sets off on yet another attempted sexual assault. Okay, we're going to Manila. And did I forget to mention that this flick was directed by Cirio Santiago, the Great? One of the most famous Filipino directors around. His father, Ciriaco Santiago, started Premier Productions in Manila, which is still one of the biggest studios in the Philippines. Cirio runs it now. And Cirio was one of the first guys to cast blacks as action heroes, so you could call him a pioneer in the blaxploitation genre. Remember TNT Jackson from 1975? Cirio Santiago. Then in the 80s, he did a bunch of low-budget Vietnam War movies like Firehawk. He made over 20 flicks with Roger Corman, although Future Hunters isn't one of them. In fact, a lot of pretty big directors started out working with Cirio Santiago. He and Jonathan Demme co-produced a flick called Hot Box. I'm sure you guys remember Hot Box, right? And then Demme went on to do Silence of the Lambs, many other pictures. Carl Franklin, the guy who did Devil in a Blue Dress and One False Move, he directed Eye of the Eagle 2 for Cirio. I'll give you more of an overview of the Filipino cinema later on, but for now, let's do the ads and then get back to the flick. I think we all have our favorite Cirio Santiago flick, Vampire Hookers, of course. That's a classic. Or you might know it as Ladies of the Night. I think it's had several titles. Nam Angels from 1988. She Devils in Chains. It's no wonder the Filipino president made Cirio president of the Philippines Film Development Fund in 1995. Because you guys know how much the Vampire Hookers made compared to what it cost? Well, a lot, I'm sure. I should look that up sometime. But I do remember the poster for Vampire Hookers. They tease, they squeeze, they're ready to please. Vampire Hookers.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
Don't you just love it when the motor vehicle chase starts in the nighttime but ends up in broad daylight? That was a long mother of a chase, wasn't it? And about 5 minutes back, was I hearing right? Did the Nazi professor stop the big guy from shooting the heroes by saying, "No, that would spoil our fun"? I must not have heard that, right? And speaking of fun, it's time for Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless with the funnest male girl around, Rusty.
Funnest, huh?
Yeah, fun, funner, funnest.
I believe that's fun, most fun, and mostest fun.
Whatever you say.
Oh, by the way, I have a joke for you.
Okay.
Okay. How are men like fine wine?
How are men like fine wine? I don't know.
Okay, because they start out like grapes, and then it's our job to stomp on them and keep them in the dark until they mature into something that we'd like to have dinner with.
That's very funny. Ha ha. Yeah. Have you got a letter for me?
I do. Actually, this is an email. It's from Jeff Brown of Elizabethtown, Kentucky for Joe Bob at Turner.com.
Thank you for that plug. Joe Bob, my wife and I used to love staying up late and watching Monstervision. You were drinking beer and being rude and saying what was on your mind, a real rebel. Now, you're wearing a tie and showing Willy Wonka. We all think that Jane Fonda had a chat with you about your future. Bad timing on that one, right? It is not too late to turn back, man. So grab a cold one and put on Return of the Living Dead, and you will probably recover. Hope the best for you, Jeff Brown, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Well, Jeff, you got your wish. I didn't like showing all that primetime mush anyway, so I bailed on the first movie. I'm concentrating on the late show, Monstervision.
Is that what you're telling him?
Shut up, Rusty. You're wrong about the beer, though. This is V8, 3.2 Oklahoma V8 in a can. All right, keep writing me, care of TNT, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318.
Or you could email through the Monstervision website, tnt.turner.com/Joe Bob.
Exactamundo. So, Rusty, how are women like fine wine?
I don't know.
They all start out fresh, fruity, and intoxicating to the mind, and then turn full-bodied with age until they go all sour and vinegary and give you a headache. What? That was funny. Maybe I didn't tell it right. Hey, I laughed at your masculist joke.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
Did some Nazi soldiers just fight a battle with some samurai on horseback, preceded by an airplane crash and followed by a gun battle on a rope bridge? Is that what I just watched? I thought so. And before that was the all-night chase scene. And you know that wherever you see a fruit stand in a chase scene, they're going to run over the fruit stand, right? But a fruit stand in the middle of the night? I mean, do they have that in the Philippines? Fresh prunes at 2 a.m. in the Philippines. Then we had the machine gun fire in the lobby of the Manila Hilton, the old let's leave our flight plan in the other helicopter and maybe they'll try to fly the other helicopter and then we can blow it up by remote control trick. And I can't believe they killed off Bauer, the Nazi bodyguard in the knee socks. He had a good look going there. He was being true to his German roots, you know. You guys ever been to Germany? Socks and sandals. Big look over there. Anyway, the bad guys had a great offensive strategy there on the footbridge, didn't they? Hans, run out there and kill that couple on the bridge. And no, don't shoot them. Hit them with your gun. I don't care if they have Uzis. Just go, okay? Oh, okay, Hans is dead. Wolfgang, go hit those people with your gun. All right, we still got midgets and Amazons coming up, so let's get back to the flick after the ads. And who were those guys on horseback? I have no idea. We just had a major battle, and I don't even know who those guys were. You know who they probably are? They represent nature going against the evil forces of man gone bad. The horse being the classic image of rural life, and that was the sort of the Ingmar Bergman part of the flick. I think Ingmar may have done the second unit work on this.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
Well, that Michelle, she's always falling out of her dress, isn't she? What a goofball. Is she still wearing her high heels in the jungle? I thought so, okay. And that was the famous sledgehammer-wielding tribe of midgets against the Mongol horde saltpeter and nitrate slab sequence, complete with dynamite, stick hurling, chest spearing, and of course, plenty of crossbow action. Actually, my favorite bit of violence was not any of that stuff. It was when the four midgets just jump on the guy and stomp him to death, all of which could only exist in the Filipino cinema. Filipinos love movies, and they make about 150 of their own movies every year, but lately they hadn't been too proud of their output. Now, I'm not making a judgment about it, but I say this because a little while ago, the Filipino government itself created a couple of organizations to improve things like the cultural center of the Philippines. And the trouble was, the Filipino audience likes the stuff that's being made. So you know what the government decided to do? Affect the demand by changing the audience. They started doing these traveling workshops in the provinces on how to read films intelligently. So in order to appreciate Filipino movies, you have to watch out for the film's cultural subtext and blah, blah, blah. I'll teach you how to read a Filipino movie. You just go, hey, 200 midgets with crossbows, cool. All right, best part coming up after the commercials. I have no idea why the midgets needed Robert Patrick and Linda Carroll's help. You know, they seem to do pretty well on their own. I think they just wanted to keep them around in case Linda Carroll's dress fell off completely, you know, because a sundress and white pumps, not very practical for an anthropologist, is it? and after Labor Day, no less.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Monstervision and Future Hunters after these messages.
And those Filipinos do know how to end a movie, don't they? An earthquake, an avalanche, a speared Nazi, and a midget rescue. And of course, you can't go wrong with cat-fighting Amazons in fur bikinis dangling over the flesh-eating crocodile pit. That was Ursula Marquez as the Amazon Queen. Future Hunters was the first in a series of one movie for Ursula. A woman with two amazing talents, though, matched only by the two talents of Elizabeth Oropesa as the Huntress. That alligator had one sumptuous snack, didn't he? Okay, I want to let you know that next week we have an encore performance of the classic Planet of the Apes. Charlton Heston bears his buttocks and kisses a monkey, not necessarily in that order, in the science fiction standard. If you missed it last time we showed it, do not repeat that mistake. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that the light at the end of the tunnel just may be a muzzle flash. Did you guys hear the one about the team of archaeologists who were excavating in Israel when they came upon a cave? And written on the wall of the cave are the symbols of a woman, a donkey, a shovel, a fish, and a Star of David. You don't have to remember that. The writings are determined to be at least 3,000 years old, and the piece of stone is removed and it's brought to the museum, and archaeologists from around the world come to study the ancient symbols, and they hold a huge meeting after months of conferences to discuss the meaning of the markings. And the president of the society points at the first drawing and he says, "This looks like a woman, so we can judge that this race was family-oriented and held women in high esteem. You can also tell they were intelligent, as the next symbol resembles a donkey. So they were smart enough to have animals help them till the soil. The next drawing looks like a shovel of some sort, which means they even had tools to help them. Even further proof of their high intelligence is the fish, which means that if a famine had hit the earth and the food didn't grow, they would take to the sea for food. And then the last symbol appears to be the Star of David, which means they were evidently Hebrews." And the audience applauds. But then this little old man stands up in the back of the room and he says, "You idiots, Hebrew is read from right to left. It says, 'Holy mackerel, dig the ass on that woman.'" Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. You guys know the difference between an Israeli and an Israelite? A third less calories.